Welcome to the Wealthy Circle podcast, where we take a deeper dive into this year's finalists and winners from our wealthmanagement.com 2020 industry awards. These interviews cover the challenges, innovations, and trends in the wealth management industry and the individuals working to help advisors better help their clients.
Hello and welcome to the Wealthies Podcast. This is the podcast where we speak to the folks who have won our wealthmanagement.com industry awards, the awards that recognize initiatives designed to help advisors succeed. I'm your host today, Davis Janowski, and I'm the Senior Technology Editor at Wealth Management. Today, I'm speaking with John Pierce, Head of Business Development at Cetera Financial Group. Thanks for joining us today, John.
Thanks, Davis. Really excited to be here and really appreciate all the thought, content, and leadership that wealth management provides to our industry. So again, thank you for having me.
We're glad to have you. Well, I can't believe that there might be advisors out there who don't know you, but just to start off, what are the problems Cetera is solving for financial advisors?
That's a great question. I think when we think about challenges and problems, I'd kind of frame it in two different areas. One is the pandemic has really made us focus about, going back, looking at the big picture and ensuring that everything we're doing is about our clients. And so, our purpose at Cetera from a macro perspective is to, help as many Americans as we can, achieve, their vision of financial well-being. And that's kind of been turned on its head given the pandemic. And so we're taking a step back and looking at all of our investments and really assessing how can we execute, on our core purpose. So that's one of the challenges that we're looking to help solve for and advance. And I'd actually think the second one goes back to scarcity of skill sets. And what I mean by that is, 26% of our advisors don't have succession plans in the industry. And our team actively recruits to help financial professionals find their next succession plan, the next advisor that's going to join their team to take over eventually. And if you look at our industry, according to Cerulli, 35% of advisors are leaving the industry. And so we really have to think about the skill set the kind of skill set scarcity and hire next gen advisors. There's going to be 72 trillion in assets transferred from males to females. And it means we really need to figure out how do we increase female representation in our industry. When you look at the number of new businesses being started in the United States, it's primarily driven by Hispanic and African-American entrepreneurs. And so we need to expand our diversity initiatives. And then I guess I'd say finally, in terms of skill sets, larger teams are now realizing, we should look for different skills to plug into our existing entities like CPAs and enrolled agents or people that have specialties in protection where most traditional advisors don't want to go down that path, retirement specialists, and really more importantly, planning specialists to help solve the first problem we talked about, which is, really helping our clients figure out how do we deliver, their version of their best, financial well-being. So those are, kind of two problems we're trying to solve for, Davis.
Great. That's interesting. And, here in New York, we're in particular, I think, sort of at a vanguard of seeing the population change. You mentioned the diversity issue, and we're going to have a majority Hispanic population here in New York in a not too distant future. Great that you guys are planning for it. You mentioned the pandemic, and it's really, I can't think of an area in the country, an industry, or just about anything that has not been dramatically changed by the pandemic. I'm curious what you are seeing in terms of trends in the market and in the advisor industry in general as well.
Wow, Davis, that's a great question. When I think about trends, I really think about three key trends. The first trend is that what we've learned from the pandemic is that everyone is independent. They've been operating independently from their home, from their kitchen, from their basement, in their garage the last 18 months. And that has caused a significant amount of reflection, and contemplation about Am I at the right firm? How has that firm treated me during the pandemic? What resources have been delivered to help me grow? And taking the mindset that everyone is independent, we've seen a surge of candidates looking at our 5 different communities. And the unique thing about the pandemic and everyone working, kind of independently is that they've been growing. And so they're really assessing, if I'm growing and I'm doing it all on my own, why am I in a W-2 channel, or why am I giving up 60%, or why am I, not getting a fair grid? And so the first trend I think the pandemic has caused is the reassessment of where do I sit, and is this the right community for me to grow long-term? The second issue is really enterprise value. The pandemic has really focused the financial professionals in our industry around the concept of enterprise value. Their practice is worth more than their house. And they're now kind of having this dawn of, if I increase my enterprise value, I'm increasing my multiple, so that when I leave, I'll have the ability to take care of my family, and quite frankly, the next generation of the family. And so Cetera is focused on providing the resources to grow enterprise value. And from a recruiting perspective, my team is very focused on bringing advisors with specific skill sets or specific demographics or specific needs into other large entities to help them grow their enterprise value. And I think, Davis, maybe the third trend, we already kind of hit on it in the first question, but I think you really need to dig a little deeper on the shifting demographics. When you look at the data coming from Cerulli, you look at the data coming from Discovery Data, there's been a surge in independence. And so firms need to have the ability to plug into enterprises easily to help them grow. And that's one of the hallmarks of what we do at Cetera. The second thing is succession planning. Do you have a successor? Does your firm have a robust policy to protect your family if you get run over by a bus? What will they do to help you hire people? And so we've seen a surge of hiring of LOS 3 to 5 financial professionals that we can tuck into aging demographic practices to give them the ability to work on the C&D book, but also to find out over a course of a few years, is she the right person to take over my practice? And that leads to the last one, which is the increase in females in our industry. We are laser focused on hiring more female financial professionals because of the data. The data is very clear. If we don't hire more female financial professionals, in our industry, either new to the business or young in the business, we will not survive as an industry.
We've talked about pursuing diversity, pursuing having more women in particular in the industry, also succession plans. What other initiatives is Cetera looking to undertake in 2022? Because we are coming to the end of 2021. I'm sure you guys have been doing some strategic planning. What can you tell us about next year?
Yeah, we have, and it's been interesting. We're on a record pace this year. We'll bring over $10 billion in assets. We had a record third quarter. We're going to have an even better fourth quarter. But it all points to, what are we doing to reduce friction? And we have 2 initiatives that I'm really excited about. The first initiative is how we think about onboarding and integration financial professionals at Cetera in our 5 different communities. Regardless of what competitors say, making a move is hard. You need a firm that has invested in the resources to help you be successful. FAs don't like changing firms, although many know they need to, and they need to really have the ability to go to a place that is invested in their success. And so at Cetera, we've really reimagined the onboarding and integration process. We've moved, COVID has allowed us to invest heavily in technology. And so we are very digitally oriented when it comes to, onboarding and integration. We're trying to do everything we can to eliminate wet signatures for transfers. And look, competitors say that it's easy peasy. It's not. There are a lot of types of accounts that you still need wet signatures for. But we're really focused on the digital front. We're also focused on quicker onboarding, in a more collaborative fashion. So we're assigning a coach to every new financial professional joining us, and we're trying to leverage digital so that the financial professional can bring their books over quick. So when I think about onboarding integration and our investment now and in the future, it's all about collaboration, and it's all about inclusiveness in terms of bringing the financial professional and her team into the process so that we have success. And I think the second, kind of key initiative for us at Cetera is what we call Growth 360. We have learned that we need to help our financial professionals grow to increase their enterprise value so they'll get a fair multiple when they do exit the business. And so Growth 360 is basically leveraging all the capabilities and intellect and best practices and avoiding the pitfalls that others have learned from a collective 8,000 plus financial professionals and their brain trust. And so Growth 360 is the ultimate peer-to-peer sharing platform. It's in person, it's virtual, it's social, it's intranet, it's conferences, and it's recognition. And the idea here, Davis, is to take the best ideas from the field, because the reality is the best ideas never come from the home office, right? The best ideas always come from financial professionals. So Growth 360 really supercharges our advisors, our financial professionals' growth with the mindset of again, delivering on what our clients, their best version of their financial life. And when we do that, we're helping our clients. We're helping our enterprises and our financial professionals to grow their enterprise value. And that, in the end, will help Cetera Financial long-term. So terrific question. Thank you.
Sure. Well, I'm curious as well, being that I'm the senior tech editor there. Can you parse that at all on sort of what's the human side of Growth 360 versus, how Cetera is helping with technology for advisors? Because that is one of the things that comes with growth for advisors is the need to have more efficiency in their practices.
Oh, 100%. Really super good question. And I'm probably not the best person to do this, but what I would tell you is the pandemic has really taught me that we need to keep the good things that we've got from the pandemic, and then we need to eliminate some of the things that we used to do as a normal course of business. And so Cetera has invested dramatically in technology to reduce friction. And what I mean by that, when we take the example of the onboarding, we're trying to be as digital as possible to eliminate the friction that advisors feel when they need to move their books. In terms of Growth 360, the main, there's two elements, right? You have a human element. And so we are deploying what we call growth officers across all 5 of our communities so that they can meet where appropriate, following appropriate local guidelines face-to-face and do an analysis of a financial professional's book, look at gaps, look at ways that we can help them to grow, look at potentially loans to help leverage a business, help them with practice acquisition. So there's a face-to-face component that ties in with our advisory business development group, and all 3 of our teams, recruiting, advisory, and growth officers, work in a collaborative manner. So that's the human element. Now the technology element is, okay, how do we get all of the best practices and learnings from the collective? Where do we get it so they can be shared? How do we create small groups or pods that can share their best practices, leveraging technology virtually? And then also, how do we share on social that not only helps our advisors or financial professionals grow, but also to allow them to mine new prospects? And so I would love to have you eventually talk to our growth officer team, and they can probably give you a better answer of how we unite human capital with technology capital. But it's a barbell, right? And we are not saying, okay, it's only about people or it's only about technology. We're investing heavily in this because we know that if you help our financial professionals grow, everyone wins.
Got it. I'll look forward to having a discussion like that. Well, the pandemic has presented its own challenges, but I'm curious too, sort of as aside from the pandemic, what are some of the challenges that exist both for Cetera and for the industry at large that you have seen or see in your sights ahead?
Yeah, boy, it's a great question. We talked a little bit about the skill set scarcity. That's real. And it's not easy to solve. I've got 3 kids. None of them want to come into our business, and our seminal challenge is how do we get younger people into our business? And we know that the model that I grew up with, 25 years ago at Merrill Lynch, where you're hiring 50 people and hoping that 1 or 2 stick is just not feasible in today's environment. And so that's real. And we can't just talk about it. We have to figure out how to really solve for it. Every firm says they will help you grow. The proof is really in what are they doing? What are they investing in? Do they have the capital to help you to grow? And then I think the other thing that's really important is the regulatory environment is shifting dramatically. And so the people that are like, oh, I'm just going to be an RIA and drop my Series 7 are now realizing, no. The SEC is now doing a lot more oversight and integration similar to FINRA. And Reg BI is real, right? Firms that are like, hey, don't worry about it. You can discretionarily trade a brokerage account like you have for the past 10 years, to bring a recruit in. It's almost like bait and switch. Reg BI is a seminal transformation in our industry. And you need to be at a firm that, number one, has the ability to provide the compliance and regulatory oversight to keep you out of trouble, and then also give you the tools to help you navigate a really complex regulatory environment that is only going to get more complex, right? Advisors that have been around a long time doing their business the way they've always done it, they're going to have to change. There are going to be some major constraints on what you can do in brokerage accounts, client consent, the ability to have clients actually consent in writing ahead of time. People that are saying, oh, Reg BI is not a big deal. Companies that say that, smaller companies, I don't know how they survive both the regulatory changes that are coming up or the legal changes that are going to occur, which again kind of goes back to you need to find a firm that is financially sound, that has the right infrastructure from a legal and compliance perspective, but really leaves you alone, right? And that's one of the benefits of Cetera. We've got 5 communities, over 8,000 advisors or financial professionals, and because every community is, call it 1,500 to 2,000 advisors, you have a voice at the table, but you also have the infrastructure to survive and grow and do well in what I think is becoming a incredibly complex regulatory environment that doesn't seem to be being mitigated in any way. It's just like more and more and more. So I'm not sure how small firms, are going to survive long term.
Well, folks, it's sadly that's all the time we have today. I think we could keep this discussion going on for some time. I've been speaking with John Pierce, Head of Business Development at Cetera Financial Group. John, thank you very much. Appreciate your insights.
Davis, thanks so much. I want to thank you for having us on today. And I also want to commend you and your firm on the thought leadership that you provide from a content perspective on a regular basis. I think more financial professionals need to spend more time with, the thought-provoking content and the thought leadership that your firm provides. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for the kind words, John. Well, I'm your host, Davis Janowski. I'm Senior Tech Editor here at wellthmanagement.com. And I thank you for spending a little of your day with us. Have a good afternoon or evening.
This content has been made for information and educational purposes only. The views and opinions represent the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views and opinions of wellthmanagement.com.